Joining me now to talk more about this and the actions that he is taking to extract the United States from supporting China is Congressman Michael Waltz. He represents the 6th Congressional District of Florida. Congressman, welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you so much. Great to be on with you.
Now, Congressman, you have introduced a resolution in Congress basically stating that the U.S. should, if the Olympics, the Winter Olympics in 2022, are not moved from Beijing, that America cannot in good conscience participate in this because this is giving legitimacy to China that has a horrific record when it comes to human rights.
Yeah, that's right. And Tony, this resolution and this call for a boycott isn't just coming out of the blue. I want to be clear on that. My colleague, Senator Rick from Florida, former Speaker Newt Gingrich, and others have been demanding that the International Olympic Committee rebid the Olympics and move them out of Beijing for well over 2 years. And they have been met with a resounding silence. The IOC refuses to engage on the issue in violation of their own moral standards and their own code of ethics. And so at this point, with the Olympics only 11 months away, I mean, we're talking about right next year, February of 2022, I don't think we have a choice. I hate it for the athletes, but I cannot stand for rewarding Beijing and Xi after they have unleashed the coronavirus on the world, 2 million plus dead and counting, covered it up. Doctors disappeared that tried to sound the alarm. Journalists disappeared that tried to blow the whistle on this thing. Wouldn't allow our investigators in, still won't share relevant data with the World Health Organization, which they've completely corrupted. And then on top of it, as you mentioned, the genocide that's ongoing as we speak, with videos now being smuggled out of the Uyghurs on their knees, blindfolded, being loaded onto rail cars and sent to concentration camps where they're forced into slave labor. There is mass sterilization of their women going on, the mass rapes, that systematic rape campaign that the BBC, which has since been thrown out of China for their report. How can we in good conscience reward Beijing with that ongoing as we speak, and not to mention Hong Kong, Tibet? And I don't want to lose sight of the fact the ongoing persecution of Christians that has been happening now for years. How can we, in good conscience, reward Beijing with a global platform and spotlight for them to continue to whitewash these atrocities and spew their propaganda?
I think you are absolutely correct, Congressman, and I will say you're not alone. Last May, as I serve on the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, I'll just make reference to that for a moment. As I was the chairman, in our report last year, we actually called upon Congress and the administration, the Trump administration at the time, to not participate in the 2022 elections for that very reason. So this has, and that's a bipartisan commission. So there's bipartisan support for not giving legitimacy to China and allowing them, as you said, basically to whitewash a horrific. In fact, they're at the top of the list of abusers of human rights and suppression of religious freedom in the world. I mean, they're right up there with North Korea.
You know, that's right. And Tony, I'm a Green Beret, 24 years and still going in the National Guard. I've served in difficult places all over the world. And for Biden to stand on national television and create this kind of moral equivalency, well, they do it their way and we do it ours, I think is really telling. This is Obama's third term where it's about managing the American decline rather than asserting forcefully when needed our leadership. And to say that there's some kind of moral equivalency in terms of our values is just really appalling, frankly. I mean, we are talking about basic human rights, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, that are being abused all over China as we speak. If you are not a Han Chinese, then you are a second-class citizen and treated horribly there. And so I think it's really telling in terms of how, he's talking a bit of a tough game out of one side of his mouth, but then there's this moral equivalency out of the other side. The United States needs to make a stand. We need to continue to lead in line with our values around the world. And the last thing I want to see after, the devastation that China's unleashed on this country with this pandemic is the American flag flying in Beijing. And again, as you know, President Xi repeatedly in speech after speech talks about replacing the American dream with the China dream and their form of government around the world. And the last piece, I want to be sure I get this in, is that American corporations, corporate America in many ways is absolutely complicit. Whether it is Nike or NBC, the social justice that they demand in the United States, I guess, doesn't apply when they're making billions on the backs of slave labor over in China. And enough is enough.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was a point that needed to be made, because American people can participate in this process. We don't have to wait for the Olympic Committee or the United States Congress to take action. Consumers in America can act as well by not buying the products from these companies that are benefiting from this slave labor.
That's right. Well, and recently, and we cite this in the op-ed that I just put out on it in the Washington Examiner, that a leading think tank in Australia cites that 80 international brands in one way or another are benefiting from the slave labor and from the atrocities that are coming out of China. And I would ask everyone that's in line with our values, when you see made in China on that label on the back of some product, put it back. We can vote and we can speak out with pocketbooks and with our wallets. Again, that needs to be right here in the United States. And in the cases where that doesn't make sense, then maybe with our allies in Australia or Malaysia or what have you. But what the coronavirus has shown us is the dependencies, whether it's masks or PPE or pharmaceuticals or rare earth minerals that we have now in China. Those things are a national security issue, and the Chinese have done it deliberately. The left is talking about green energy and moving to green power. China's gobbled up 90% of the world's lithium that makes the batteries, right? So, we just need a wake-up call to what's going on here. This is the greatest adversary we have ever faced in our history, because they have us addicted. They have politicians, our corporations, and our sports enterprises addicted to their money. And meanwhile, they're marching forward to be the global leader and replace the United States.
And the foreign policy approach that Joe Biden articulated the other night is, as you said, it goes back to a third Obama term, but it's this strategy of lead from behind. This idea of moral equivalency is this global view of the world that we're just another house on the block. There's nothing special about America. Therefore, we should not lead when it comes to such basic things as fundamental human rights of religious freedom and other freedoms articulated in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that we helped write back in 1948.
Yeah, that's right. There's fundamental things that we're seeing come back that underscore their approach to the world. One is that America is much as the problem as it is the solution, right? And that we cause as many problems abroad than we solve. So let's pull back. And number two is we're not exceptional, all right? There's this kind of moral equivalency with these various dictatorships. And then number three, if we're only nice to them, they'll be nice back to us and be nice to their own people. And you see that in their approach to Iran, to Cuba, to Venezuela, to China. Not how it works.
We've been trying that for 20
not reality.
No, we've been trying that with China over almost a quarter of a century, and it has not worked. In fact, the only thing it's done is caused corporate America to adopt their values. That's what's happened.
That's right.
Congressman Waltz,
right.
thanks so much for joining us. We want to continue to track this topic and look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Absolutely. We'll keep up the fight. Thanks so much.